Looking to save time by automating your household file organization with Hazel? You've come to the right spot. Welcome to part 2 of our Productive Parents series, where we dive into Hazel, the ultimate tool for streamlining your digital life and keeping things organized with ease. Hi, I'm Ashley Grant, a busy mom of 3 who understands the many demands you have on your time and attention. Juggling files on your computer might seem trivial, but when you're the household information hub, your efficiency is crucial. Enter Hazel, a Mac app that automates your file organization process. Today, we're diving deeper into how to use Hazel. In this video, we'll explore how to set up Hazel rules to manage all your household documents like a pro. And if you haven't checked out part 1, where I introduce Hazel and show you the basics, you may want to watch that first. I'll post the links in the show notes below. In this video, we'll show you how to efficiently craft Hazel rules for the type of documents you manage on a recurring basis. Files such as financial statements, household bills, health invoices, and more. You'll learn all about the subtleties involved in setting up rules for each type of document. And you'll also discover some other unique ways to use Hazel, like importing files into other applications or to specific folders. And of course, we'll touch on troubleshooting Hazel as well. So let's jump in and make your digital life even more streamlined with Hazel. We've already covered the basics of Hazel in part 1 of this series, where we crafted a rule to rename and file our ATM bank statement. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty of setting up rules for other similar types of financial statements. These include things like credit card statements, investment statements, and mortgage statements. Depending on your comfort level, you may want to save all of these monthly statements or just a few of them. Often you download these files from the internet, so they're already on your computer. So to create more Hazel rules for these types of financial statements, we'll start by taking the bank statement rule that we crafted in part 1 of this series and simply tweak it for the other documents that we're working with now. This way, you'll see how crafting multiple Hazel rules can be easy. Instead of the first 10 minutes it took to set up our first rule, these new rules will only take about 2 to 3 minutes each to create and test. So I've got Hazel open in the background, and in the foreground here, I'm in my inbox, and I'm going to pull up this credit card statement. Chase statement. Want to take a quick preview of it to see what are the distinctive elements that I can have Hazel match to. Now I'm popping over to Hazel, and I'm going to take this first rule that we created in part 1 of this series, and I'm just going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to go ahead and rename that rule so that I know it matches this particular Chase statement. I'm going to tear off this rule so I can just reposition it in one side of the window and have the Chase statement in the other side of the window. Now I'm going to just start modifying some of the contents from the previous rule so that they match what's in this Chase statement. And I'm looking again for very distinct elements that would only be found in this statement. I'm also looking just at text because images don't always OCR well. So text is much easier for Hazel to read. So I have the account number, and I'm looking for one other piece of text that would be distinctive. And here I see New Balance. And then finally, I'm going to match to the date format. And again, Hazel's pretty good at automatically detecting the date format, but I usually help it along by providing the format that's in this particular statement. It takes a couple extra seconds, but I find it worthwhile to have the right match. I'm done with that, and I want to make sure it's the second of the 2 dates that Hazel will see because I want the ending date. And I'm going to go back and just have Hazel automatically do it, even though I've helped it along. Now that we've created our identifying factors, we're going to go ahead and start telling Hazel what to do with the file once it identifies it. In this case, we're going to have it rename it, and I want to change the name to this statement. And then I'll click done, and then we'll tell Hazel where to move the file to. So we have to locate this particular folder. So it's not in our bank accounts, it's actually up in our records, financial, And this time it's liabilities under credit cards. And there's the folder. We're gonna have Hazel sort the file into different subfolders. So I'm just gonna open it at the folder level. And there's the action where Hazel sorts it into the subfolder, and it's based on the date that it compiled above. I'm just gonna check and make sure it's only the year because we don't want it to sort into month and day folders. So we'll save that file. And then it'll pop open here, and there it is. And we'll click on the eyeball. We'll locate the file that we were just trying to match to, and we'll open it up into Hazel. Now, it looks like this rule does not match, and the part that's not matching is right there. So if you click on the X, you can look through and see what Hazel is reading and find something that Hazel does see and type that in. It looks like United Purchases is something it sees. So we'll go ahead and type that in. And then we have to recheck the rule by clicking on the eyeball again and reloading the statement. And it matches. So we're good. We're done with this rule. Let's move on to the next one. So for the next one, we're going to do an investment statement, and we're going to copy the rule that we just made. And then we'll go ahead and find the statement. We'll pop that up so we can get a good look. And I just want to reposition it so that we can write our rule a little easier. Okay, we'll start out by changing the name to this new investment statement. And it's a fidelity statement, so I'll type that in. And then I'll go ahead and tear off Hazel again so we can look at it side by side with the fidelity statement we're trying to match to. So I'm going to modify some of the contents just like I did last time. So here, Hightower is a unique word that will be in there. And I'm just looking for some unique information that would just be found in this statement. So this address here would probably just be found in this type of statement. And then one more thing to identify. Looks like account value is another one that would be there every single month. So finally, we'll change the date and have Hazel look up the date for us. Again, we're going to prompt Hazel by telling it what format to look for. So we'll change that and just configure this so that it matches how it looks in the statement. We'll still have Hazel automatically detect the date format. We're just helping it along. And in this case, I also want the second occurrence from the beginning. All right, now we're ready to tell Hazel how to rename this. So we'll call it fidelity statement. And that's what it looks like. And then we have to tell Hazel which folder to move it to. This one is an investment statement, so it's in the asset folder, and there it is. Again, Hazel will sort it into these subfolders by year for us. And this is the field that we have to just check to make sure Hazel will sort it correctly for us. We just want the year, not the month or the day or anything else. So we'll save this rule. And now we'll pop back open to Hazel, and it's time to check the rule by clicking on the eyeball, finding our document, and clicking open. And it looks like the rule matches, so this rule is good as well. We'll just double check the date that Hazel gave us, and it looks like that's the right date, the second one that it found. So this rule is good. We're going to duplicate it and go on and create a rule for our mortgage statement. And it's pretty much the same process we've done before. So we'll start by renaming the rule. And then we'll go ahead and I pulled up the file and just see what specific things we can configure the rule to. Then we'll go over to our rule and start changing some of these parameters. We're looking through the document for very unique text-based parameters that Hazel can recognize. Again, images it doesn't do as well with, but anything in text it usually can find pretty easily. So we'll find that PO box and make that change. That's very specific to this type of document. We'll look for one other identifying thing. Principal looks good here. All right, we have our criteria. Let's check the date format. Looks like it ends in 01/17/2023. There's the date. So we'll make that adjustment here in the format as it's presented in this particular statement. And one last thing, I just want to check. Right now we have the second instance from the beginning, but actually in this statement, it's the first. So we'll make that change, hit save, and now we're ready to match. Let's see if our rule works. We'll find our statement, click open, and it matches. We're good.
Now we have to tell Hazel what to do with the file. So we'll first have it rename it to match this particular mortgage statement. It's called Columbia Mortgage. And then we have to put it in the right folder. This time it's in Liabilities, Mortgage, and there it is. Finally, Hazel will sort it into subfolders. Now, all of our 4 finance rules are complete, and we can go ahead and run Hazel. Now, let's go check our folders and see if Hazel put the documents where we expected them to be based on our rules. So when we look into our investment accounts, that fidelity statement, it's there. And if we drill into our bank account statement, it's there. And finally, we'll check on our mortgage statement, and there it is as well. We can even verify by clicking on it, and there it is.
All right, now that we've got our financial statements organized, let's move on to another important category: household bills. Just like with financial statements, creating rules for these documents is as simple as copying and tweaking an existing rule to match a new file. In this section, we'll tackle a variety of household bills, including maintenance invoices, utility bills, insurance invoices, and lease statements. Believe me, having all these documents organized so that you can find them later when you need them can be a lifesaver. We've all had those moments when we can't remember when the dishwasher was last repaired or how much we paid for that holiday light installation, and it's time to do it all over again. When you're getting new quotes, it's super helpful to find that old information quickly. So let's jump in and see how to create rules specifically for these household files.
So we're going to start with a maintenance invoice, and I'm pulling up this One Greenway irrigation document. And as I pull up Hazel, I'm going to make sure first that the rules are paused because we don't want to run the rules while we're creating them. To create a new rule for this document, it's going to be more of the same, where I'm simply going to copy a previous document, and then I will create the rule for this new document. I'll tear it off just like we did before, so I can see both the document and Hazel side by side. Now I'll go ahead and rename the rule as we've always done, and I'm going to speed up the playback of this rule creation process since it's exactly the same as we've seen before. We're just matching here to the various criteria that are particular to this Greenway irrigation document. And we'll also make sure that we're matching to the date format. Again, we'll help Hazel along just by typing in the particular format of this statement. Now, as we save this, we'll then go back into Hazel and make sure that we rename it properly. Again, doing all the usual renaming and also finding the right folder to have Hazel move it into. And finally, we'll have Hazel sort it into the subfolder by year. Now we'll take a look at our rule, and it matches. So again, we're good, and we're ready to move on to the next rule. So now we're creating a rule for a utility bill, and I've sped up the playback even faster because again, it's exactly more of the same. We'll just go through it really fast so you can get a sense for the parameters that you need to change each time, making sure that you find the right folders, rename it, check it, do the whole thing. We'll do another utility bill here, and again, I've sped up the playback because it is exactly the same. And I just want to mention that you may not want to save all these kinds of statements, especially if you can find them online and you really don't need to save them to your hard drive for any reason. But it's easy enough to set up a Hazel rule if you do want to save it and just have Hazel take care of it all for you. Now I've got one more utility bill in this suite of household bills. This one is a toll statement, an Easy Pass statement. And we're doing exactly the same thing, copying it, renaming it, checking it, making sure it works. Now, another type of invoice you may want to save is for your auto insurance or other homeowners insurance. Those are things you may need to reference in the future and also be able to see the statements to pay the bills. So here we are with an auto insurance policy, creating a quick Hazel rule to file that one for us. And finally, one last household bill that you may want to consider having Hazel save for you is any kind of auto lease policy, those monthly statements that you get from your auto leasing company. And you can set up a quick Hazel rule to have Hazel rename it and put it in the right folder for you. And in this case, Hazel didn't actually identify one of those items, so we'll just go in and quickly change it and fix it.
All right, it's time to tackle another category of documents that you'll likely need to save regularly: medical or health-related files. These include items like monthly insurance premiums, medical provider invoices, and explanation of benefits statements. All of these documents are essential to track for reimbursement and tax purposes. Now, we'll create rules for these documents following the same format we've already used. So we'll continue copying and tweaking existing rules to add these new ones. Since this process is more of the same of what you've already seen, I've sped up the video playback for your convenience. So let's dive in and organize our crucial medical and health-related documents with Hazel.
So the first type of document in this category I have is an insurance bill, a health insurance bill, and in this case, a dental insurance bill. It's more of the same. We're just copying, changing parameters, checking, and making sure it works. The next type of bill I have is an explanation of benefits statement that you get from your insurance company. You want to hang on to these because sometimes it shows the amount you owe, sometimes it has a check included, and you'll need it for your files to reconcile. Now, the final type of health statement that you may want to save repeatedly are provider statements, especially for those providers that you go to multiple times throughout the year. You may want to save this for tax purposes.
So we've already seen how to create rules for finance, household, and medical files, which are very similar to one another and very easy to copy and modify. Now let's move on to our next category of documents. Receipts. This category includes items like tax-related receipts, such as donations, big ticket purchases like jewelry, gift cards, coupons, or store credit that you may want to save and use at a later date, membership statements, and even the regular item receipts like clothing receipts that you may want to keep in case of potential returns. Creating rules for this category will be slightly different, and in some cases even simpler than what we've seen before. I'm going to slow down and walk you through the process in a little bit more detail. Let's take a look.
So the first rule I'm going to create is for Hazel to match to a charity donation receipt. And this is a little different from the previous rules we've made, in that I'm not having Hazel look inside at the contents, but rather match to a name. So I'm going to match it to the name donation, and I'm also going to have the name match a date format. I always download my PDFs and make sure that the date is at the start of each file name. That way, when it comes time to sort the file into the appropriate year subfolder, Hazel will know exactly where to put it. So instead of renaming the file, we don't need that. We're just going to move it into the appropriate folder. And this one is a tax folder where we keep donations. And we'll have Hazel sort it into a subfolder based on the appropriate year. And that's what it identified in the file name. We'll go ahead and rename this particular rule to reflect the fact that it's a generic tax donation. It could be any type of donation. It doesn't have to be from some particular company. And we'll save it and check it. And it matches. So we're ready to move on to the next rule. The next rule I'm going to create is to match to a jewelry receipt. And just like the donation receipt, in this case, I'm going to end up matching to a particular file name, since the contents inside of each jewelry receipt could be different. We could buy them from different stores. It will be different. So I'll put the jewelry in the file name, and I'll also use the date so that Hazel can later sort it into the subfolders. We'll find the jewelry folder, and in this case, it's in a personal property folder, and we'll have Hazel sort it into the subfolder. We'll check the rule, and it doesn't match. And this is because I didn't have the file name in the right date. So it looks like I've set it up appropriately how I name my files. However, when I go to the actual file, it looks like I did not put in the month and the day. So we'll add that in based on the contents inside of the file. This time when we check it again, we'll see that it matches. So we're good. So now we're gonna work on our next rule, which will be for coupons or store credit or gift cards. So I'll start by changing the name to reflect the fact that this is a receipt that's sort of a store credit or a coupon or a gift card. And I put all of those components in the rule name. And then I'm gonna pull up one of the gift cards that I have. And this time I'm also matching by name, but I'm going to give Hazel a bunch of different opportunities to look for different things in the name. Sometimes I could have a gift card, sometimes I could have a coupon, In some cases, the name may contain store credit. So if it sees any of those things, not all of them, but any of them, it will match to the file. Then we'll figure out where the receipt should go. And then finally, it will sort it into the date subfolder. Lastly, I'm going to add a tag. This tag will name gift card. And that way, any file with that tag, I can easily find on my computer with a quick search of the tag. So we'll go ahead and check the rule against our file. There it is. And it doesn't match, but it doesn't match because of the date. So we'll go ahead and fix that date. It wasn't in the month and day format that we are looking for. And I'm matching to the date that the coupon expires. And when we go ahead and try to check that again, it does match. So it's matching to gift card, not the other two file names, but the whole thing matches. So we'll do another rule. This time we're going to create a rule for an Apple Store receipt, and I'm going to have Hazel look into the contents again. So I'm copying one of the medical statements where that also look inside the contents. This time it's a receipt, and it's particular to the Apple Store. Since we purchase a lot of things from there on a recurring basis, I'm going to have a Hazel rule for it. So I'm going to go ahead like we did in the past for all the financial and healthcare and household bill type of documents. And I'm going to have Hazel look inside the receipt and match to particular parameters that you would find when you buy something from the Apple Store. So we'll be very specific here and list up to 3 different criteria to make sure that Hazel matches just this type of receipt and doesn't falsely match to something else. And then I still want Hazel to rename the file, so I'll have it look inside the file for a particular date and match to that format. And then we'll go ahead and tell Hazel how to rename the file, and also where exactly to put this file. This time I have a electronics folder. So we'll see if that works by finding the file, and it matched. So we're good on that one. We're gonna do one more, and this time we'll copy that same Apple receipt and we'll do it for a Lululemon receipt. Again, we're buying from that store frequently. We may need to keep the receipt for returns, and I want Hazel to look inside the document to match to that particular receipt type. Lululemon is a very common term in that receipt, and I need another specific to this receipt type of thing. Transaction is something else. You don't want Hazel to confuse it with a bill that might be found in a credit card statement or something like that. So exchange is helpful here to make sure it's a receipt. And then we're going to have Hazel find the date that's within the receipt, and we'll match it to a particular date format that it finds in that receipt type. And then finally, we will go ahead and tell Hazel to rename this receipt and store it in a different folder, this time a clothing folder. Sort it into subfolders, and we'll check for a match. And it matched, so that's good as well. For our last category of receipt, we're going to have Hazel match to a membership receipt. And this one is again very similar, where Hazel's going to look inside the file. So we're going to go ahead and copy the Lululemon receipt and then change the different parameters as we've been doing all along. So Hazel's looking inside the contents of the file for these specific words or numbers, and it will match exactly to that file. These are monthly statements, so we'll change the date to reflect the format that the date is presented in the statement. And then we'll go ahead and rename the file and tell Hazel where to put it. This time we have a membership folder. It'll still sort it into subfolders based on the year, and we will test it. This one matches, so it's also good. The date looks like it's right, and we're done.
All right, in this final rule building section, we'll explore something a bit different, incorporating tags with Hazel. Tags are really useful when we have a variety of different files that we want Hazel to process all in the same way. In these scenarios, we don't want Hazel to rename our files. We just want them to be moved to specific locations on our computer. Since each file will be different and contain different information, we'll have to use a different trigger for Hazel. In this case, we will manually add tags to signal to Hazel to look at the file. When Hazel sees a file with a specific tag, it will perform the action that we designate in the rule. So tags are great for tasks like automatically importing photos into your Photos app, or moving files to a dedicated folder like a tax folder, or adding files to the notes section of your to-do list, which is a little bit more of an advanced concept, but I'll show you how to do it. So let's see how to use tags with Hazel.
So the first tag rule I'm going to create will be to take a photo and add it to my Mac Photos app. So we'll create a new rule here and call it tags import to photos. And I'm going to have Hazel look for a file tag that contains the tag to photos. Then once it identifies that file based on the tag, I'll have it import the file to the Photos app. And Hazel can recognize any file folder that you might have in your Photos app, but I'll import it to the library. Then I'll have Hazel remove the tag, and I just want to switch it around. So it first removes the tag and then imports it to the library. And as one last measure, I will have Hazel delete the original file, because when it imports to photos, it doesn't necessarily delete it. Now we'll match and see if it works. And it doesn't work, but that's because I didn't add the tag to this particular file. So I'll go ahead and add it. And then we'll check for a match again. And this time it matches. So Hazel will import that file into Photos when we run the rules. Now I'm going to copy this tag and create a rule for filing a tax document. That's right there. I want to put it in a particular tax folder that I have for a particular tax year. This one will be 2022. And I'll have the tag that it's looking for, tax 2022. And then I'm actually going to keep the tag because I want to have that in my files, but I am going to have Hazel move this particular file to the tax folder for 2022. So I'll select it here, and that's it. We'll check the rule, find the document and see if it matches. And it doesn't match, but that's because we haven't assigned the file the tag yet. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll recheck the rule. And it works. So now we'll do one more rule with a tag. So for this last tagged rule, we're going to have Hazel import a document onto my to-do list app into the notes field. This is a bit more of a sophisticated maneuver, but Hazel will look for the tag to do. And then what I'm going to do is run something called AppleScript. So that's Apple's computer programming language. And there's a script that I copied off the internet that basically takes this file and imports it into my OmniFocus to-do list app. And then once it runs that AppleScript and does the import, I'm actually going to have it move the original file to the trash, because now it's on my to-do list app. I probably don't need the file anymore. So I'll go ahead and add a tag to this particular file. I know I want it to go into my to-do list app, and there's probably a couple of other files here too. There's another one that I want to import into my to-do list app. That's what it looks like. And then we'll check to see if these files, either one of them match, which they do because we just added the tag.
Okay, now that we've configured all our rules, let's put them to the test and watch Hazel work its magic.
So now we've created all of our rules here, and it's almost time to run the rules. The first thing I want to do, though, is reorganize these rules a little bit, because Hazel actually runs its rules from top to bottom. So I usually put the tagged rules on the top, and then I keep the other rules grouped together based on the type of category that they're in. Now there's our inbox with all of the files that we've created rules for, and I'm just checking to see if there's any extra tags that I need to add or other stuff that I need to do to prepare these files to have Hazel recognize them. The last thing I'm going to do before we run these rules is make one change to our gift card. Now, I actually want Hazel, instead of putting a tag on that, I really want Hazel to add it to my to-dos. Now, technically, I could put that tag on that type of file, but I actually want to have the files saved into my receipts folder. So instead, I'm going to copy the Apple script that we created for the tag to do, and I'm actually just going to paste it into this other rule. Now that it's pasted in, Hazel will actually import this file into the notes field of my to-do list app. And I also get the benefit of keeping the file in the same folder, the gift card folder where we saved it before. Now we're finally ready to run all of these rules. So we'll take a look at our inbox and all those files, and then we'll go back to Hazel. And we have all those rules there, and we're ready to hit our run.
You'll notice that Hazel did an excellent job moving our files out of our inbox as intended. However, there were a couple files left behind. We forgot to create rules for those files. No worries, we can take a couple minutes and quickly add a couple more rules. And when we're done, we'll check to verify that Hazel worked its magic on all the files in our inbox.
And there's our inbox after the rules have been run. There's 2 files left, and we forgot to create rules for them. So we'll go ahead and quickly create rules. One is for this pharmacy receipt, which is a part of our medical receipt rules, which we want to save for tax purposes. So we'll go ahead and quickly fill out those different parameters for this particular receipt. And once we've renamed it and moved it to the right folder, we'll go ahead and check the rule and see if it matches. We have a little problem here, so we'll change that. And now it matches. And now we have one last receipt. Again, it's another medical receipt that we will be saving over and over again. And so we'll fill out these parameters, check the date format, and then give a quick check to see if those rules match. It does. So now we'll go ahead and tell Hazel exactly how we want the file to be named. And we're going to save the file in the same folder, so we're done. Now we'll go ahead and run the rules one more time, and in a second, Hazel should take care of those files. So we'll do the run rules now, and they're gone. So Hazel should have taken care of everything that was in our inbox at this point. We can go into our records and just give a check to see if the files are indeed there like we specified. There's one, the gift card. And if we drill through some of these other ones, there's a receipt that we had, and there are some of the medical records that we created rules for, and our dental insurance statements and all sorts of stuff. If we check our to-do list app in the inbox, we'll see if Hazel did indeed import those files into the notes field, and there they are. So now we'll go and check our photos to make sure that also got imported, and there that one is. So it looks like Hazel did its job, and we're done.
Well, there you have it. We've covered all the essentials for using Hazel to organize various types of household documents, from financial statements and household bills to health-related files and receipts. We've seen how Hazel can help streamline your digital life and help you stay on top of things with ease. The nice thing about Hazel is it's not a one and done. Remember, you can always go back and adjust your rules as needed, or create new rules to accommodate changes in your document and paperless workflow. I hope you've seen how Hazel is the versatile and powerful tool that can adapt to and support your evolving needs as a busy parent. It can definitely take the humdrum task of organizing your files off your plate. One less thing to worry about. How great is that? So thank you for joining me in this part 2 of our Productive Parents series on Hazel. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel for more tips and tricks to help you stay organized and efficient. Until next time, happy organizing with Hazel.